The Tesla engine has been added to the game, and it is basically just a giant ball lightning that you harvest for power. It simply strikes these Tesla coils, which runs power through a high voltage power cable, which then, well, makes power and will feed it to the SMESs. You start it identically to the Singularity. You use a particle accelerator, and instead you'll just drag a Tesla generator into the center. There are safer setups than this, but that's not the point. The way the Tesla ball works is that it will always try to shoot Tesla coils first to make power, and then if it doesn't hit the Tesla coils, which it can, it will hit the grounding rods preferably. However, if you don't have grounding rods or Tesla coils, it will hit electrical devices like emitters and blow them up, which if that means if you didn't build your Tesla center correctly, these emitters can end up getting struck, blowing up, and then it will free itself. Also, there is maintenance you have to do with Tesla coils. They will eventually break, and grounding rods will also eventually break, meaning you have to replace them. As long as you have insulated gloves on, the Tesla coil will not shock you. If you touch it somehow, you're dead, but if you're at the point where you can't touch it, you are going to kill the station anyway. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to loose it. And if you observe it, it will unpurposely chase any electrical device until it hits it and blows it up. As you can see, it's just going right for the substations, going for the SMESs, and just blowing up anything that it can that has a battery. That includes things like airlocks. But if this thing is loose, the first thing you have to do is call the shuttle because the station is doomed, and you need to do that before you lose power entirely. The Thief has received a slight objective change. They are no longer going to be asked to steal structures, but you can still be asked to steal things like large animals. Also, the Thief has been given some new equipment. In the Syndicate, you can now get an EMAG. There are 3 smoke grenades in the Smuggler's kit now. The Radio Jammer in the Communicator's kit has been replaced with a Cybersun pen, and the Omnizine bottle in the Chemistry kit has been replaced with Omega Soap. Pacifism has been reworked. You can no longer directly hurt people, but you can now actually directly hurt structures and stuff as long as you have a weapon or are just swinging at it. Also, you can't even, if you accidentally wide swing somebody, it just will deal 0 damage, so there's not easy ways around pacifism, but you can now actually at least break objects and hit other things. So pacifism doesn't mean you're completely against doing damage, but you still can't harm anyone. Power monitor console has received a massive visual overhaul, and now lets you see where all the sources of energy are coming from, lets you specifically look at SMESs, substations, and APCs. It shows you the total generator output, network use, and battery usage, and you can even look at the wire networks themselves, and you can use this to even figure out where separations are. This also makes it a lot easier to figure out where power sinks are at, so that's another thing worth considering. But this is actually really, really nice for engineering to get a quick glance of where a problem might be, especially after a bomb has gone off. It can get rather confusing figuring out why certain parts of a station are not receiving power. A new random mid-round event has been added called a Clerical Error. It has a chance of just deleting people off the station records. As you can see, that person no longer exists on the station records. So that means that not everyone who doesn't have a record is automatically a syndicate or an antagonist of the station. You have to be careful because the records aren't perfect. Machine upgrading has been removed in favor of just upgraded machines themselves to make it a bit more discoverable. The hyperconvection proto-lathe is just a better proto-lathe, but it produces heat. Same thing with the auto-lathe. Those can be acquired through industrial engineering. There's also the industrial ore processor, which just requires salvage equipment, which is just a tier 1 research as well, in the same branch even. The industrial ore processor just makes it so you can make more materials with less ore. And the same thing with the lathe. Normally a crowbar takes 2 steel to make, but with a hyper lathe it takes 1.4 units of steel. Also, it heats up the room, so if I make a crowbar standing right next to it, you can see the heat jump up immediately, and it produces heat the entire time it is making things. Power cells have had a tech tree change. You can now make medium capacity power cells in an auto lathe round start. High capacity cells are now actually only tier 1, and then there's still the microreactor tier 3 research. The Grand Lottery is a new purchasable item from Cargo for $10,000. It's just gambling. There could be a bunch of stuff in the crate. I'll just appraise this one. This one lost a lot of money. We lost about 70% of our investment on it. Inside there could still be interesting items that can't really be acquired easily. Like the Bling Clown Shoes has value to it. The Ghost Toy has value to it. So it may not always be a good money investment, but there are very interesting items in it, including things like the Throngler. Station beacons have been added to the game, and they are just little devices that can be configured to say whatever you want. To configure them, you just pick them up, press C. You could change however you want, what color you want them to be on the map, and you could just say hi or whatever you want. And after you name it, you can then choose to have it actually be on or off, and if it is on, it will be visible on maps. You now build directional wooden barricades for 4 wood apiece, and this can be useful if you're trying to wall off a door. The Ion Storm event is now completely silent, so only the Borgs that get their laws changed would know what happened. As you can see, Ion Storm hit me. I now have a new law that says Chief Engineers are now the lowest ranking crew members, and now lost my second law. Buckshot has been nerfed. It used to do 12 piercing a pellet, and now it only does 10 piercing, meaning that the shotguns have went from 72 piercing a shot down to 60. The gorilla has been added to the game. It is a new science research and can be made in science. It, on its own, is actually a fairly strong melee weapon, but it swings a little slow. But if you stick an anomaly core in it, it will power it up. It has infinite charges for now, does not change the damage. But if I hit something with it, like an anomaly, it actually will send the anomaly flying into an opposite direction. And yes, it works on mobs too. New artifact effects have been added to the game. These are the following. Invisibility, which you can actually see one that's invisible right here. And interestingly enough, you actually can't make it reappear, so it can actually get really easy to get this one lost. There is a portal effect, which if you enter it, it will teleport you to a random entity, and the portal stays open for 2 minutes. There is a speed up, which is on handheld artifacts only, and if you hold it in your hand, you'll be moving 25% faster. And a new trigger that requires blood, so if you get blood on it, it's just like the water reaction, but requires blood. And 2 other new effects are both fauna and flora spawn. Fauna could already spawn, but it basically just opens the range from things from like Xenos down to cats, and it can also spawn flora. That is all I would cover for this week. I want you to thank our maintainers and contributors for keeping the game up to date, and Happy New Year's to everyone.